How many people think that in the next 10 years, most enterprises will still be running Microsoft Exchange behind their firewall? No takers? All right. So behind the firewall. So I think the reality of the situation is that when you look at somebody like Amazon or Heroku, that they can deliver a service, a cloud-based service with a higher level of uptime and a much lower total cost of ownership. Or you look at a Salesforce.com or something like that. And the reality is if you look at the vast bulk of enterprise applications today, most of them are not mission critical. Most of them don't provide competitive advantage. And as you go through that triage process and you say, is this something that we outsource and get from a SaaS player? Is this something that we need to, re-architect and move to private or public cloud and so on? I think a lot of those start to go away. There's no doubt that enterprise platform as a service has a place for utility applications and that there will be many of those. But if you ask somebody who's trying to do something brand new, like, for example, Hyatt's just hired 100 cloud-native application developers, and they've got a whole DevOps program and boot camp that they're putting these guys through. Do you think those guys are working on utility apps? No, those guys are going to be working on stuff that's providing competitive advantage to Hyatt to help them get to the next level, to help them become now a technology business more in the hospitality business. And then those kinds of applications are very frequently not going to fit in a highly abstracted environment because you have to do something different, almost by definition. I don't know what that is, but say transcoding. Some people need specific GPUs that their transcoding is tied to. There are just ways in which, for the apps that matter, which are going to be the ones that are interesting, that you're going to do yourself, that you're going to take on your business, you're going to have to figure out how to cloud nativize them, to do that Netflixification process, right? Otherwise, those apps should just get outsourced.
But I want to talk about the boring applications. There's $475 billion spent on IT annually, right? And engineering started...
Why are you still maintaining those boring applications?
Engineering started the process of cloud adoption. It's now being handed over into the budgets in the hands of IT operators. And they've got to deal with this amalgamation of crap. And that crap doesn't need to run in a high-performance environment. It needs a abstracted environment that can run dev test wherever they want it, wherever it's cheapest. And it can run production wherever it will be most performant from a latency perspective. There will always be those really cool cutting-edge applications, the Netflix.
Yeah, but why in the future would you run any of those apps? Like, why would you run any of your support desk software like Remedy when you can go to Zendesk? Why would you do that? I mean, your Remedy has absolutely no competitive advantage to you, right? Like everybody in the early days of SAP, everybody would spend hundreds of millions of dollars to customize their SAP deployment, and then they realized it was asinine, so they changed their business models to basically do what SAP did, so it wasn't so expensive to do the deployment. It's the same kind of thing, right? If you've got, these boring apps, you got to have a pretty great justification for keeping them in-house.
Which is why you go from 340 monotonous line of business applications down to 120 that need a compatibility engine between where they're going to run.
Well, then per you, they just got cut by 2/3.
They did.
I'd like to point out that...
But that's where the bulk of the cost and the revenue for companies exists today.
As a side note, even your counter example is already on the cloud and done. There are transcoding services. And this is where slice and route a service is. Even if you have this app that has that one unique thing, that one part gets done different.
No, my point was that if it was a mission-critical competitive advantage for your business, you're doing transcoding as a service, you've written code that uses a specific NVIDIA processor to allow you to do transcoding 2 or 3 times faster, that you might do that.
Even that, you would spin it out separately and then sell it to everyone else, potentially.
No.
Well, unless it's very core to your business.
Kaiser Permanente still runs their electronic healthcare records on a mainframe. They spend $100 million a year for that. And they're not going to change it. You know why? Because it works. They don't want to mess with it, and it's their core mission-critical competitive advantage. They'll be running on a mainframe 20 years from now.
It works, and they don't want to mess with it, though, is baked into so many of these companies, not just for that core one. I don't think these companies are always so good at that evaluation of this is not core and we can afford to ship that out. I agree with your premise. I don't know if all of the companies you're talking about understand or agree with your premise.
Yeah. We've got a whole new generation of application engineers, though, that are coming into these organizations with an entirely different frame of reference. Right? And they're replacing the engineers today that are sitting there managing this old COBOL or Java application, ripping their hair, and the new guys are ripping their hair out saying, what are we doing? Right? And that will be the beginning of the transformation to take those boring things and either rip and replace with something that's off the shelf or re-architect it in a way that actually is competitively advantage, provides a competitive advantage to the organization. We're just at the beginning of that process right now.
So, yeah, in a decade we can start then when they're seniors.